afternoon, Louisiana, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, September the 19th. It's a sad Monday in Saints land and a happy Monday in LSU land. We talked about Thursday how both teams in South Louisiana were facing crucial games. LSU beats Mississippi State at home. The Saints lose to the Bucs at home. I guess the good news, if you're a fan of both teams, is that was probably more of a crucial game for LSU. The Saints have time to recover. LSU would have been in a big spot had they lost that game. We'll talk about both today here on the program. And to my right is Jim Derry and Spencer the Guru Urquhart. And we'll start with the Saints, guys. We'll tear that Band-Aid off, and then we'll get to LSU later. Sheldon Mickles is here to talk about it. But the Saints, they fall 20-10 to the Bucs. And, I was on a podcast this morning, and somebody said, well, what happened to the Saints? And I said, this is my deep, thoughtful analysis that when you turn the ball over 5 times in an NFL game, you are going to lose.
Well, of course, but as silly as this sounds, I think they lost the game before that. I got a haircut like 3 weeks ago, dude. I'm glad you noticed. Thanks for noticing. I don't think it was lost before the turnovers. It was about an attitude thing. I said on Datitude this morning, they came in with for lack of a better word, I was using the word datitude. They had no attitude, no datitude, no nothing. I went in the locker room after the game, was just like, whatever, talking to people. I'm glad Mark Ingram manned up. I'm glad that, Dennis Allen stood up there and took questions like a man. But, there was no finish strong like in the past. So I think this was the first day that I think we noticed that Sean Payton wasn't on the sideline. Zach, one thing I talked about early, and I know you want to keep this shorter, but, I kind of disagreed with you when you first started. We were sitting next to each other in the press box about not kicking the field goal, that 57-yard field goal. But I think the more I thought about it, it went a long way to showing that this team isn't going to be as aggressive, at least not right now. There's no aggressive nature. To me, going in there and trying to kick that field goal before halftime says a whole lot about where this team is, and being too afraid to give Tom Brady the ball near midfield. Be aggressive, and they weren't aggressive yesterday.
Yeah, I will say this. An attitude, yeah, maybe it's different. Sure it's different. It's a different coach. It's a different coaching staff. If Mark Ingram doesn't fumble that ball in the 10, that's a different game. That was an attitude drive. They were ripping off runs of 6, 8, 10 yards at a time. Mark Ingram coughed the ball up, and I know that's not exactly where things fell apart, but that turnover was big, because if the Saints punch that in and go up 10-3, it's a different fourth quarter. If I'm
overcome that.
Yeah, if I'm a Saints fan, I'm not terribly concerned. It's a good team. Yeah, you don't want to lose at home. But I don't think they played awful. It's a different style than what people are used to watching, Spencer.
Yeah, what I'm concerned about is the long-term health of Jameis Winston, because it was fractured in his back. It wouldn't shock me if that played a lot into him throwing the 3 picks, because he just did not look like himself, especially down the stretch. And he just, if he's banged up like that could be a lot of trouble, because if he's not right, he's dependent on those deep balls. And if you're missing those deep balls that badly, then he's going to end up benched. If he doesn't get that straightened out. So hopefully he can get healthy and get back to not throwing those picks, because last year before the ACL, he was improved upon that 14 touchdowns, only 3 picks. Then he throws 3 picks in this game alone. So that tells me he probably wasn't 100%, but hopefully the week of rest can get him right, and against another divisional opponent in Carolina, because you don't want to fall 1-2, because then you'll be 1-2 in the division and have the rest of the year be an uphill battle.
And by the way, a game, not a road game, but away from home against the Vikings after that is not easy, and 1-2 becomes 1-3. Before we go any further, I want to remind everybody that if you have not signed up for the Caesars Sportsbook app, we have a special offer for you. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars or use promo code NOLAFULL, and your first bet is risk-free up to $1,250. So go to NOLA.com/Caesars. If you haven't signed up, listen, we have a lot of fun on this show. We bet a lot of money. We don't bet a lot of money. We make a lot of bets for not that much money. That's how we have fun, and you can too. But as we were saying, Saints-Panthers, it's a big game, Jim. I mean, nothing in Week 3 is must win, but this sets the tenor for the season.
This is as close to must win as you can get, and I've used this a lot lately. So I hate using this early in the season. But you talk about where they are, and the Saints are going to need to beat every team they're favored against this year to do the things that they want to do, because it's not going to be like a lot of the years past. It's not going to be like 17. Oh, not so much 17, but 18 and 19, where they were favored almost every game. I mean, you talk about Green Bay and Tampa Bay. They're happen to be playing each other this week, but those teams are favored almost every week. The Saints used to be like that. They're not anymore. So the Saints at -3, they're going to play a Panthers team that, frankly, they're better than. And the Panthers at 0-2, Saints have to win this game, period.
Spencer, you agree?
I don't know if I'd go quite as far as say it's a must win, but I mean it's a huge game. There's no denying that. I mean, it's one that you need to win if you, like you said, want to meet your goals. But I mean, you never know with the NFL. You can always get on a big tear in the second half, and I wouldn't go as far as say must win, but it's huge.
They don't have to win. I mean, the sun's still going to come up whether they win or lose Sunday. But if they want to go to the playoffs this year, they need to beat Carolina, period. I mean, they need to beat Carolina twice, and they need to beat Atlanta twice. So as far as must win, whether they live or die, no, it's not a must win. So there's really no such thing as a must win. But I mean,
I know. I'm just saying, as far as I don't think the season will be over if they lose. Yeah, it'll hurt their chances, but I'm not going to go as far as say the season's over.
It's a must win because I have over 3 division wins, and by God, they need this one.
You ain't winning that if they lose this game.
Yeah, that's going to be. I might push if they lose this one, but that's going to be tough too. So that's why it's a must win. God dang it. Other NFL results as we continue here on Bayou Bets. By the way, the Saints are 3-point favorites. We showed you there. That opened at 2.5, so already a little bit of steam on the Saints up to a field goal favorite, guys. Around the NFL, another day of upsets, not quite like Week 1, but we did see the Jets go into Cleveland and win. As called here on the show by Jim Derry, we saw the Bengals fail to go to Dallas and beat the Dak Prescott-less Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys?
And we also saw the Raiders. Honestly, I saw somebody say, yeah, as big of a choke job as that was for the Raiders, it might have saved the Cardinals' season. They're 0-2 and looking really bad if the Raiders blow them out.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't have the Raiders or Cardinals anywhere, so that one didn't bother me. Obviously, I had the Cowboys everywhere. I had money line and parlays. I had a money line of bet. I had the Cowboys plus 7.5. I just thought it was the best fade the public moment of this early season. It was in fact, by far the best fade the public moment of the early season. So that one didn't surprise me. The Jets coming back, I mean, that was a complete fluke. Browns led by, I think, 2 touchdowns with like 3 or 4 minutes left. So, I mean, and I did have the Browns in a couple little places, nothing major. But that was crazy. First Jets win in September since 2018. Lost your sound there, Zach. You're on mute. That's why.
I muted myself. That's why. Isn't that crazy? How does that happen? The whole month of September,
no idea.
4 straight seasons.
Like, this is the
NFL.
Bad.
Everybody's supposed to win some. Spencer, what sticks out to you on this list? Obviously, that Dolphins-Ravens game was the game of the day.
Yeah, for fantasy, for sure. Yeah, that was crazy. Jalen Waddle and Tua and Tyreek Hill all went off there. Lamar Jackson went off. So definitely love that for fantasy purposes. But the one that really stood out to me here was Jaguars 24, Colts 0. And I'm saying I'm so glad I bet the Jacksonville money because once I saw Michael Pittman was trending toward being out, I was like, I don't like that. Like, outside of Michael Pittman, the Colts have basically no reliable receiver. They could get ugly over there. And sure enough, I didn't expect that though. I thought there's a good chance Jacksonville could win it, but 24-0.
Zach, remember
in trouble.
Zach Spencer, remember earlier, like I think it was Friday, I sent you that 14-leg alternate line parlay and asked you who was going to mess it up. The answer was the Colts. I got everything else right. The entire card was I still got 2 games tonight, but I'd have Tennessee plus 24 tonight, and I'd have Minnesota plus 15 or something stupid like that.
Well, let's talk about tonight's games while we're on the subject. Tennessee is a 10-point underdog against Buffalo. And, Jim, I know this is another one of your favorite picks of the week.
It is. It's the second favorite pick of the week to Dallas. I love Tennessee this week. Not only are you getting great value at +10 because everybody thinks the Bills rah. They rolled over the Rams last week, and they did. There's no question. But I don't think any team is as good. In fact, I don't think any team in the history of the NFL is as good as they think these Bills are right now. So Drunk Joe and Aunt Mabel are all over the Bills. You could probably do -24, and they'd still be picking Buffalo today. But I think Tennessee is a great value here. It's a fade, another fade the public play, and it also is a great value play because this line should be more like 7.5.
And the other, Trey Wingo, by the way, friend of the program and an ambassador for Caesar Sportsbook, has a video out today about this game and really brings up, from a betting trends perspective, two really good nuggets. And one is that Mike Vrabel, as the Titans coach, is 6-2 straight up, not against the spread, straight up when an underdog of 6 points or more as the Titans coach. I mean, he finds a way to fire up his team when it is an underdog. And then the other part of it, on the flip side, though, Buffalo's a 10-point favorite. Well, 19 of Buffalo's last 26 wins have come by double digits. When they're right, they're really right. And in a stretch of that length of time, they're only the third team in NFL history to reach 19 out of 26 double-digit wins, the other two being the early 70s Dolphins, who all they did was go undefeated in the season, and the Greatest Show on Turf Rams in the late 90s and early 2000s. So pretty heady company.
One of those 7 of 26, a loss to the Tennessee Titans, by the way.
Well, no, this is just looking at their past 26 wins. It doesn't count losses.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, again, if there is a team in the NFL that can cover a big spread like that, it's the Bills. But if there is a team you should beware of as a big underdog, it's the Titans. So really a fascinating game. That one's at 6:15. Spencer, 7:30 nightcap, another good one. The Eagles are 2.5-point home favorites. So basically your home field edge here, 2.5 points against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, this one should be a lot of fun. A lot of great skill players in this matchup. Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and the quarterback battle will be interesting. You've got the young up-and-comer Jalen Hurts against the seasoned veteran Kirk Cousins, who's had his struggles in prime time. But this is his chance to make a statement and show that the Vikings are a true contender. I know they whooped up on Green Bay last week, but they could win this one, which I think they very well could, to go 2-0. And that's going to be big. That's going to show me that the Vikings are a team that's on their way to the playoffs and not going to be an easy game by any means for the Saints in week 4 in London. You never know what could happen in London, but it just goes to show that the Vikings they're no joke, but they're going to have to prove it tonight at Philly, which is usually a pretty hostile environment.
Vikings just missed my card, Zach, by the way.
By the way,
that would have been my 6th pick, the Vikings tonight.
Alan says he's not worried second week of the season. Saints can still do it. And that's true. Look, we're never going to go 17-0. It's week 3. Nothing's over. Nick says, feel a big letdown. He said he means the Bills. Feels a big letdown for the Bills coming tonight.
Don't tell the Spencer's boy. They were going 17-0. I can't remember his name right now.
No, he said 15-2, I believe. So maybe he's still got hope.
Right.
Look, it's going to be a great night. I mean, sometimes you get these Monday night matchups that are just duds, but tonight you get 2. I mean, you kind of wish these were on separate nights because I think next weekend Monday night's like Giants, Cowboys, and
it is.
Yeah,
that's a good game.
It might be a good game. It might. I mean, the Giants could go to 3-0.
Giants have been very. I mean, yeah, they're 2-0, but their offense outside of Saquon's been very rough. And in Dallas, I mean, there's no Dak.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be fun.
Let's pivot and you're watching Bayou Bets here on September the 19th. NFL Week 2 wraps up tonight. College football Week 3 is in the books, and a big win for the hometown team. The LSU Tigers beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Wait a minute, we're based out of New Orleans, buddy. That was just a big win for the hometown.
The hometown team in New Orleans. Oh, you're based out of New Orleans. I'm based out of Baton Rouge. But you're right. Big wins for both hometown teams. The Tulane Green Wave beat up on Kansas State. I mean, you want to talk about a good win. That's a good team that they went up there and beat.
Willie Fritz was not – after the game and watching him, I'm not sure he really expected to win that game.
I mean, maybe I didn't see it, but yeah, I'll believe you. I mean, I didn't
looked pretty surprised.
But good for Tulane. Good for Tulane. And Kyle, by the way, says he said 14-3.
There he is.
Forgive him for not taking there were some bad
calls.
Oh, Jesus.
There
were. Now, but that's
there
never
were,
the
but that
reason
had
the team
nothing to
loses a
do
game.
with why the team lost.
This is a good time to bring on Sheldon
get outta
Mickles
here.
because he's going to tell us about LSU. He was the only staff member to pick LSU to beat Mississippi State. He also covered the Saints for the Advocate for many years. So, Sheldon, welcome to the program. Thanks for being here, sir.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
And I'm gonna make Sheldon big.
Yeah, don't make me big.
Yeah, there we go. Sheldon, let's start with LSU, and then we'll circle back to the NFL. Saturday night, look, I think at halftime the game was about how everyone expected it to be, except for you. Mississippi State was sort of just slogging along, doing enough. LSU's offense couldn't move the ball. And then something changed. And all of a sudden, and this is where I think Brian Kelly, nothing against Les Miles, nothing against Ed Ogeron, but Brian Kelly's kind of showing his chops as an in-game coach. Made a lot of defensive adjustments. State only scores 3 points in the second half. Big win for LSU.
Yeah, and I wasn't feeling too good about that pick when the score was 13-0. So it was kind of shaky at the beginning. But look, I just thought LSU was I thought they were in a tight spot with the secondary. That was my reasoning, that they might be in a tough spot against the air raid offense. But I mean, that unit showed up along with the whole defense the other night. But the secondary especially showed up. And I think that was a big thing is that they got that touchdown right before halftime, LSU did, and it made it 13-7, felt a lot better about themselves, and they came out and they started playing a lot better, even better on defense than they had. But, Mike Leach went for a couple of those, 4th and 1s early that kind of, I think, took away maybe some of Mississippi State's offensive momentum. I mean, I think one time they went for it on 4th and 1 from their 31, somewhere in that area, and they made the first one, but then they missed 2 in a row in their own territory, I think. And I think that took away maybe some of their offensive momentum and kind of hurt them a little bit. And hence they were only up by 6 points at halftime. And then they get the ball to start the second half because LSU took it in the first half. And they went down. I don't remember if they kicked that field goal in their first possession or not. But it got it got 13-10. LSU kicked the field goal. Mississippi State did not do anything on their first possession. LSU got the field goal later in the third quarter. Next thing you know, all momentum's on LSU's side going to the fourth quarter. Now, I didn't expect a 21-point fourth quarter from LSU, but I did write in my little summary that I thought LSU had some offensive playmakers as well. Mississippi State had the air raid, but LSU's got some pretty nice pieces. If they could get their running game going with somebody other than Jaden Daniels, take some of the pressure off of him, and maybe get John Emery going, I think they'll be in pretty good shape. They're trying to get their offensive line, straightened out and getting the best players in there. And, of course, everybody knows about their wide receivers. So I think if they could get the running game going real consistently, I think they'll be in a lot better shape later this season.
LSU scoring 31 points. That was not something a lot of people had in that game, as you said, Sheldon. 21 of those coming in the fourth quarter. I did want to ask you what you've seen from Brian Kelly through 3 games. Obviously, his cupboard is not as stacked as he would like it to be, or as it will be in a couple of years with talent. But with what he's got, I think most LSU fans have to be pleased, and it's only been 3 weeks, but with the progression from the first quarter in the Superdome to the fourth quarter on Saturday night.
Oh, I would say from the first 3 quarters at the Superdome till the other night. I think the first 3 quarters, a lot of people were scratching their heads in the Florida State game and going like, we paying $10 million a year for this. That was probably the feeling among LSU fans. I'm not saying among the media. But I know there were a lot of people that were kind of disappointed in those first 3 quarters. But, I mean, you're talking about a lot of new players, a lot of new coaches, and it was going to take some time. And I thought Florida State, of course, now, they're 3-0 and they're playing really well. So, I thought that was a little bit of maybe a hiccup. And then they showed a little bit in the fourth quarter what they could do, or at the end of the game, what they could do. They had 2 scoring drives in a row. Of course, the Southern game was, kind of a outmanned kind of issue. where you just knew, what the outcome was going to be, although we never know in these days. But, Southern was, terribly outmanned. And last week against Mississippi State, the way they came back in the second half and especially in the fourth quarter, I mean, they held Mississippi State to 86 total yards in the second half. And I think Mississippi State got 289 total yards where they were averaging 486 in the first two games. So, that was quite the job that they did. And once again, the secondary, and then they had a lot of heat from, up front with Ojulari and Gay, and they were able to get some pressure on Will Rogers. They wanted to take him off his spot, and I think they disrupted him quite a bit and kind of, interrupted what they wanted to do. It's funny. I was thinking on the way home, Matt House, LSU's defense coordinator, somebody asked Brian Kelly in the postgame, about the game plan on defense, and he kind of didn't give a lot of information about how they went about it. But when you think about it, Matt House coached linebackers for the Chiefs for the last 3 years. The Chiefs run, it's not called an air raid offense, but it's pretty close to it. It's a hybrid college, and or it's a cousin of the West Coast offense is what the air raid offense is. And Matt House coached, in training camp, OTAs, mini camps against the Chiefs version of that. So, he probably had some tricks up his sleeve, and I'm sure he had some answers for Mississippi State, for that offense because, they did quite the job. And when you look at it, secondary was supposed to be one of the great big question marks about LSU this year when they had almost nobody coming back except for Jay Ward, who played an exceptional game the other night. So I think they hats off to them because the defense kept them in it until the offense started to roll.
Sheldon, I'm sorry, Zach. Speaking of the offense going forward, I think they've made a lot of progression in just 3 short weeks. Jaden Daniels seems to be picking things up and seem to be making pretty good decisions. I'm wondering, what are they going to do? To me, the next step is to get the rushing offense going a little bit. It's nice to see John Emery back in there, and I know that he will eventually help this offense get going a little bit. But what do you see as plans? Does Brian Kelly talk at all about the running game and getting that going a little bit?
He talked today about it in his press conference about, being more consistent at it. And he said last week, one of the things he said last week was he didn't care if he got 8 yards a carry in a game. A lot of people make a big deal out of that. If a team averages 8.0 a carry, his benchmark is 4.0. Now, his running backs are not averaging 4.0 right now. I don't have the numbers right now, but Jaden Daniels is giving them most of what they've got right now. And he was asked today, Brian Kelly was asked today about if he worried that they were relying on him too much. And I think he kind of said, well, he wants to get that running game going a little bit, but he was pretty pleased about the way they ran the ball, against Mississippi State. Now, obviously, Jaden Daniels had most of the yards rushing, but I think they ran the ball effectively. Omani Goodwin, I think he and Emery could be a good 1-2 punch. Or 2-1 punch, whatever way you want to look at it. But I like the way Omani Goodwin's a little kind of scooter, and he could get through there quickly. And Emery's kind of the pounder. He weighs, I think, 215 or 217. So you got a smallish guy, and then you got a bigger guy. And I think both of them can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think they're going to have the running game is going to start to take off a little bit here, even though they're getting ready to get into a big part of the schedule. I mean, they got New Mexico this week, but the next 6 weeks are going to tell a lot about LSU going forward because in the next 6 weeks after New Mexico, they're at Auburn, and it's on the road. So you would think right now they'd be, a good chance to win that game, but it is on the road. Then you got Tennessee here. You got at Florida. You got Ole Miss here. You got a bye week, open date week. And you got Alabama here and Arkansas on the road. So after this New Mexico game is going to be a big 6-game stretch. And they're going to need that running game. They're going to need a productive running game to get through that stretch.
Talk real quick. New Mexico, as you said, sort of the last chance to tune up before things get really hairy LSU opened in this game as a 31-point favorite. It's down to 29.5. Still expected to be an easier victory against the Lobos. And then going forward, I mean, look, this is they're a long shot to do anything super meaningful this year. I don't think anyone expects LSU to win the SEC or Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman. That third line I look at, that's the same win total that it was before the season, 7. And so in some ways, from a betting perspective, if you bet that win total, a loss as a 3-point favorite against Florida State in the opener is sort of canceled out by a win as a 3-point underdog against Mississippi State. It does become difficult, Sheldon, to sort of say, I guess after, New Mexico and UAB, they'll be big favorites in those 2 games, and that gets you to 4 wins. Auburn, I think LSU will be favored in Auburn, even though it's a road game. It's 2 weeks out, but that would be my guess. That gets you to 5 games. They won't be favored in any other games. And so the question becomes, can this team improve to the point where it could beat an Arkansas on the road, a Texas A&M on the road, or maybe a Florida on the road, a Tennessee at home, something like that. Obviously, Alabama's out there as well. But that's the goal, is to kind of pick a couple of these games off and show people that the program is headed in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, you're right about they're not going to be favored in any of those games. But you look at Arkansas, I mean, they're 3-0 right now, and they're ranked in the top 10. But they've had some trouble closing out games. I mean, or at least the first 3 quarters of games. Each of those games has been up for grabs at the end of the third quarter. Even South Carolina, even the Missouri State game the other day. I mean, they've played in some tight games. So that's one game you can look at. Texas A&M obviously lost to Appalachian State. Didn't look great against Sam Houston State. They've kind of had A&M's number a little bit, except for the last 2 times they played in College Station. But they've had A&M's number. Florida could be easily 0-3 right now, and they're 2-1. I mean, those 2 games ended, South Florida and BYU could have easily lost both of those games. So I don't think we're playing. No, I don't mean we're. I don't think they're playing Alabama, Georgia every week in the next 6 games. Scott Rabley and I were talking about it today, and we thought if they went 3-3 in that 6-game stretch, it would be pretty good. I said maybe 4-2. They might have a chance to go 4-2. Maybe closer to 3-3 would be a pretty good bet in my estimation.
Yep, and I do want to get your thoughts, Sheldon. As we said, you're a longtime Saints beat writer, and I know you follow the team closely. So before we let you go, your take on the Saints game yesterday. Kyle has been going nuts in the comments saying the officials are crooked. Sure, we can mention crooked officials if you got proof that they are. I mean, listen, there were some questionable calls. There were some outright bad calls in that game. There was also an outright bad call, one in particular I can think of against the Bucs on a personal foul.
Exactly. I was going to say, why don't you bring that up?
I don't.
More than
and
one
that gave
in the
the Saints
half.
a first down. So I don't know that you can say they're crooked. But having said that, just your general impressions of that Saints loss.
Well, first of all, I thought it was kind of a crazy game where you got an NFL game was 3-0 towards the end of the third quarter. I mean, that just doesn't happen anymore. That might have been in the early 50s, maybe. That might have been every week that would happen. But 3-0 near the end of the third quarters, and then Tampa Bay gets that field goal, and you think, okay, here's the Saints going down. They're going to get a touchdown right before the end of the third quarter, and they're going to be up 10-3 going into the fourth quarter, which by no stretch of the imagination is a lock against Tom Brady, of course. And but you got to feel good about the way they played them in those last 4 regular season games. So they're going to be up 10-3, and all of a sudden the fumble happens. Then the brawl happens, which to me I think fired up Tampa Bay more than it fired up the Saints. And
that surprised me. That did surprise me. I think you're right.
No, yeah. Because the way it happened, because Brady was getting involved, he was kind of involved in it, and before Lattimore could do anything with him, they weren't even close to each other. I think one of the reports I read was that Lattimore was in Brady's face. I mean, Fournette was between the two of them, and Fournette was the one that pushed Lattimore to start the whole thing. So, they kind of took that on like, well, and they needed it. Frankly, they needed some kind of spark. And I think that gave them a big spark. And Things kind of went downhill there like an avalanche, and it was just one of those games where it doesn't happen often in the NFL, but it can happen. I mean, a team gets on a roll, and they got on a roll, and Winston went cold, and started throwing the ball. Interceptions happened here and there and everywhere else, and kind of just snowballed real quick on them.
Sheldon, we appreciate your time. Sheldon also covers LSU basketball, so when college basketball season starts back up, can we have you back on, Sheldon?
Absolutely. I'm going to have they start practice next Wednesday officially. Is the first day of the preseason practice. They have 6 weeks before their first game. Of course, they've been practicing. They get 2 hours a week and different kind of things they could do during July and August and September. But next Wednesday, they're cranking it up. And so I'm going to have a kind of big, not necessarily gigantic preview, but I'm going to have an LSU preview and also kind of look around the SEC, who picked up who and who lost who, and just kind of get people back into the swing of basketball again before we get too deep into football. So.
Definitely. Well, Sheldon Mickles of The Advocate, you can read his work every morning in The Advocate and Times-Picayune. Thanks so much.
No problem, guys.
Thank you,
Right,
Sheldon.
That's Sheldon Mickles. We appreciate him joining us. Man, basketball season sneaks the hell up on you, like more than any other sport.
Too long. It's too long. It's just too damn long. Basketball's too damn long.
I heard something about fantasy basketball. They were saying, sign up for fantasy basketball. The fantasy football just started.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like everybody sits and waits and waits and waits all summer long for football season. And baseball is a little bit of the same. I mean, you kind of are distracted by March Madness and the NBA is getting good and everything. But, when opening day is coming. Basketball, man, it sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it really does. By the way, I want to address something that Mr. Conspiracy Theorist is throwing out there. And I didn't know this until yesterday, until Dennis Allen told me, by the way. But, we kind of talked about how it was weird that, you didn't say as much, Zach, but I did. I thought that it was strange that Lattimore was ejected. He didn't do anything. To me, he didn't do anything. But in Mr. Conspiracy Theorist here brings that up. But that came from New York. That did not come from the officiating crew. Dennis Allen said that New York in the headset decided that Lattimore would be kicked out. It had nothing to do with the officiating crew. So you can't have a double standard. You can't say that today New York saw how it was unfair and they suspended Evans but didn't suspend Lattimore. Well, the same people who suspended Evans and didn't suspend Lattimore were the ones saying that Lattimore should be kicked out of the game. So it doesn't work that way. And I mean, there's no conspiracy. There were bad calls, sure. There were multiple bad calls. I thought officiating yesterday was horrendous, but it did not have effect on the outcome of the game. Zach, like you said, when you commit 5 turnovers, you're not going to win. Period. You're not going to win when you commit 5 turnovers.
Yeah,
and Mark Ingram manned up and said, "We lost the game because of me," and that was on Datitude this morning, by the way.
Yeah, and check out Datitude, by the way, this morning. Lots of post-game reaction in that episode of Jim's podcast. Look, I think we saw the flip side of week 1 when Jameis was spectacular in the fourth quarter. They went high tempo, went right down the field, had this miraculous comeback victory. Well, this is the flip side, and obviously against a better defense, he starts to force the ball. He can make a lot of throws, but if it just goes 1% wrong, you got a guy streaking 70 yards the other way for a touchdown, and he's throwing 3 interceptions. And it's a little bit of the Jameis experience, and I think it's to his credit he has muted that a little bit in New Orleans since he arrived. But there's still going to be a little bit of that.
But like Spencer said, Zach, something wasn't right with Jameis yesterday. I mean, obviously, they talk about the 4 vertebrae in his back or whatever. What the heck was he even doing in the game? And it's clear that Dennis Allen doesn't want to make a switch. That's his guy. He says it in the press conference, and I get that. I've been the biggest Jameis defender the last year and a half. But if something's wrong with the dude, there's a reason why you have Andy Dalton. And I think if he's in the same shape next week, I think you have to contemplate a switch at some point. Again, it's nothing against Jameis per se, but I think the injury, like Spencer said, had to affect him yesterday.
Yeah, kind of what it looked like. Yeah, with the just especially at the end there when he was just making these throws at like the I think it was the pick six or one of the interceptions. It was just like, it wasn't even close. It was like 10 yards overthrown. Like, it was like, it was one of the, like, for an NFL quarterback, it's a throw where you're just like, wow, like that just happened. Was that serious? Did that really just happen? Like,
it was the one before the pick six, but it was extremely damaging because it was right after Tampa Bay had scored. And it led to a field goal. They returned it down inside, I think, the 30. The offense went nowhere, but they got a field goal, make it 13-3. And then you really do have to force it at that point. You really do have to take chances. And that led to the pick six. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys to an extent. I also think you got to open up the playbook a little bit. Like, listen, I don't know if Jameis was hurt or not because he wasn't being allowed to make any throws. So open up the playbook a little bit. Let's see what he can do. And if they were, and maybe it's because they knew that they could stop Tampa Bay from scoring very much, and hey, conservative will win this game if we don't make any mistakes. And they made mistakes, and it snowballed on them. But I don't know. I think you open it up a little bit, see what Jameis can do. If he is truly hurting and he's not getting the job done, then you do have a capable backup who has started multiple seasons in this league.
How many picks did Scott Hockley throw yesterday?
Man, stop. All right. Before we go, big bucks results for the week. You guys both have Monday night action, but Jim's 3-0 on the week. He's got a couple bets to come tonight. Spencer off his high horse from last week, but still a bet to come tonight. And then I started out hot and couldn't keep it going, and basically little less than break even there. I did win my big bets, so only lost $7 on the week. At least now I'm not on pace to lose all my $1,000 by the end of the year.
Have you ever been positive in big bucks? I just want to.
I don't think you have. I don't think you were so bad the first 3 weeks last season.
That's about to change. We're going on a big run. Give me them glasses and them scepters.
Let's do it. I meant to bring that.
Plastic goblets.
I'm so mad at myself for not bringing that to you yesterday. So mad at myself. Take a look ahead to next weekend. College football on Saturday. Listen, this is how you guys know that I'm fair and objective, because I put the Chicken Hawks on there. Duke and Kansas is a battle of 3-0 teams. You could have made a lot of money just betting on that.
State? No Washington, Michigan State.
One of those teams is going to be 4-0.
How about Sparty?
Washington and Michigan State was a key game, and Washington proved why. Look, another week without like a headliner game. I guess you could say Florida, Tennessee, but a lot of sneaky good games on this slate, guys.
I don't see anything that's going to make me stay home on Saturday and watch football. I mean, I'm a big NFL guy, so I'm up from 10 a.m. Sunday with the TV on until 11 p.m. So, and then get up early on Monday and turn it on before I do Datitude. But to me, the only game that I'm even kind of interested in here, because Tennessee is going to beat the snot out of Florida, that's going to be ugly, is A&M and Arkansas, because to me, Texas A&M has kind of been a disappointing team. They looked a little bit better with Max Johnson in there at quarterback. And Arkansas, I'm not quite sure what they are. I think they can be a top 10 team, but, you know, when you play Missouri State the way that they played Missouri State,
they were down 17-0.
What the heck was that? So that's a game I am interested in and will watch some of. And so one of those teams is going to show me something, right? Because I don't know what we got between those teams. So I want to find out.
Spencer, I need you to answer for Billy Napier, man, because the bloom is off the rose there. They darn near lost to South Florida. Probably should have lost to South Florida on Saturday night.
Yeah. It's just, kind of, some bumps in the road being his first year over there. I thought they'd have gotten off to a little better start. They pulled off the win against Utah and then struggled against Kentucky and, barely beat South Florida. So this Tennessee game, I mean, it's going to be tough on them. I think they could cover it, though. I think they'll definitely bounce back from the South Florida game. Yeah, they won, but I think it's kind of a wake-up call for them. So I'm thinking they'll do a little better this week. I don't know if they'll win outright, though. But the one I'm interested in is a USC at Oregon State. Oregon State's played pretty well. And USC, they're just so fun to watch with Caleb Williams. That's one I'll probably put on late Saturday.
I was just about to circle that game because, I think your initial reaction is the same as Uncle Big Nick. Like, USC is going to kill Oregon State. Let me tell you something about Corvallis, Oregon. It might be the most off-the-beaten-path campus of any Power 5 school in the country. And it's not Like, because Corvallis itself is off of the interstate by like 45 minutes. You got to drive down. And then once you get to Corvallis and campus, you got to take this little wooden road out. Not the road is not wooden, but a road through the woods out of town even further before you get to the football stadium. Yeah, I mean, seriously, it's like somebody just cleared out a bunch of trees and said, right here, let's put the football stadium right here. It is out in the sticks, and that is not an easy place to go win a game. And Oregon State's good. So, I mean, I think USC will probably win the game, but that's a tricky game.
Zach, for the past 2 years, every time we go to Florida, my wife's family lives in Florida. So a lot of my wife's family. Every time we go to Florida, we stop at Buc-ee's. And for the past 2 years, my kids have been begging for a stuffed beaver. Well, I'm going to make them watch the USC Oregon State game because USC is going to stuff some beavers. I mean, that they're going to kill them. Come on. I don't care whether it's in Corvallis or whether it's in Canada. USC is going to kill Oregon State.
Oregon State's not bad, man. They're not bad.
They're going to get crushed.
I don't know about all that. I love Caleb Williams, though, so I ain't betting against USC.
I ain't betting against USC.
One more comment here. I actually agree with Kyle on this one. I don't know what the hell Bruce Arians was doing on the sideline. He shouldn't have been there. It's this whole controversy today because Todd Bowles said something about how the Saints didn't have a spot for him in the box. The Bucs had 2 boxes and 18 press box seats like anywhere else in the NFL. Like, I
could have sat next to me. There was an open spot in the press box.
He had a name in the press box. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Arians. He had a spot. I don't know what he was doing on the sideline. I mean, I don't think it was breaking any rules. But
I bet he's not on the sideline next week.
Yeah,
probably not, because I say he instigated Evans.
They're going to be at home. They'll be at home.
Evans up to go hit Lattimore.
Well, he was yelling at Lattimore from the sideline, and then like we were talking about, Zach, when we looked at it again, Lattimore. I don't think Lattimore was yelling at Brady. I think he was yelling at Arians. I think they were jawing back and forth. So it looked like he was yelling at Brady, but I think Lattimore, if you got to, if you go in there and pull the truth out of what was going on, if they would actually talk about, which they're not going to, I think he and Arians were jawing at each other. And the dude should. So here's something. Go ahead, Kyle. Mark it in your book. I finally agree with you. Arians shouldn't have been on the sideline. He's an idiot.
Nick, by the way, the last 7 trips USC has made to Corvallis, 2 and 5 ATS. So yeah, they've been there before. It is not an easy road trip. Not saying they're going to lose. It's not an easy road trip.
USC team than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean they've had some good teams in the not so distant past. Looking ahead to the NFL, Thursday night, Steelers at Browns. That will be a slobber knocker. That one might be 3-3 after 3 quarters. Also, Browns are 5 points, a lot of points in a game that's going to end. Of course, the Browns were in a shootout this Sunday, so who knows? Elsewhere, guys, I think the Packers go to Tampa Bay and win. By the way.
That's going to be I can tell you right now. That's going to be my bet of the week. I've already, in fact, did it drop to 2.5 already?
Yes, it did. Yeah, unfortunately. I wanted to get it at 3 also.
I put a huge wager at 3 already on it. And I think that is a gift. Don't look the gift horse in the mouth because the Bucs have a lot of issues. Mike Evans is suspended. I don't know if he's going to appeal, which means I don't know whether he'll play this week. But if he doesn't play and Godwin doesn't play, they're in a whole world of hurt. So I think the Packers win this game as well.
What about Aaron Rodgers' curse in Florida? He's seen every time he has to go to Florida, especially Tampa Bay, he has stunk throughout his career.
That seems so random, though. That seems.
I got to be honest, Zach. I said this on Data 2 this morning as well. The Saints were not the better team yesterday. They didn't deserve to win. However, overall in the big picture, I think the Saints are a better team than the Bucs. I think there were so many things that happened bad to them. I think their personnel is better than the Bucs, right? At least right now. So I don't think the Bucs are very good. I really don't. I was not impressed with them at all yesterday. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say other one I wanted to point out. A couple of big road favorites here. Chiefs and Bills, I'm putting them both on upset alert. And Nick said the Colts could win too. Like you're talking about, especially the Colts, backs against the wall, wounded animal type style.
Doesn't matter. They're not any good.
6.5 is too many points, guys. I don't know if the Colts will win outright. That's too many points for me on the road.
We'll see. I haven't got into my analysis yet, but and the scary thing is the first thing that jumped out at me, Colts, the same thing you said, but I got a feeling that when I dive into the analysis, I think the Colts are going to be one of those teams that kind of fade into the sunset. I don't think they're any good. I don't know how many games y'all going to have to watch before you finally agree with me that Matt Ryan is no improvement over Carson Wentz. He's not better than Carson. In fact, he might be worse. And he's going to help bring that. I know they have other issues. I know they didn't have their receiver yesterday, but you tied Houston and you lost 24-0 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You are not good, Matt Ryan, and you are not good, Indianapolis Colts.
2 weeks, Jim. 2 weeks in.
It's 2 weeks in.
Careful of your overreaction Monday there. Careful of overreaction Monday.
They tied the Texans and lost 24-0 to the Jags.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is – I am willing to admit the Colts are not as good as I thought they would be. It is 2 road divisional games, which, as you say, that's the golden rule. Those are tough, right? But the division is no good either.
Then that even proves my case even more because they're terrible. If they tie the Texans, who are the worst of the worst, whatever.
I think they could if they got a tie. So let's say 9-7-1. 9-7-1 will win that division. That's what they've got to get.
They're not going 9-7-1. You can give me goblets to put on my head, glasses to wear on the side of my head, whatever you want. I'll wear whatever you want. They're not going 9-7-1.
If you would like to make a similar wager, we can't offer you goblets and glasses, although that is a prize for our fantasy football listener league. But you can go bet yourself. NOLA.com/Caesars. Your first bet is risk-free. If you lose, you get the money right back. So that's a pretty good deal. Go to NOLA.com/Caesars or just download the Caesars Sportsbook app and use promo code NOLAFULL to get that deal.
That didn't
until
sound
then, guys,
very nice. You said go bet yourself. That was really close to being a little obscene there, I think. I mean, you're telling to go bet yourself. I mean,
Go bet on your own. Go bet.
Oh, there you go. That's better. That's better. That's
What are you talking about?
Live TV.
All right.
Jim trolling the day ahead.
Check it. Jim's in fine form. We got to go. We'll be back at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Spencer and I will, anyway, for the fantasy roundup at 2 o'clock. We will talk week 2, what happened, and we will talk week 3, what we think will happen, give you some waiver wire and DFS advice for week 3. And then Thursday at 4 o'clock. Well, first of all, Thursday morning, Jim, you have Datitude with Uncle Big Nick. And then Thursday at 4 o'clock, we'll be back on Bayou Bets, full previews of Saints, Panthers, and LSU, New Mexico. We'll talk about it a little bit. Everybody's a Lobo. I grew up in Albuquerque, so, that's my Lobo. Where is it? There it is. Woof, woof. Yeah, that's right. Everybody's a Lobo. Woof, woof, woof. That's what you say. I don't think New Mexico will be saying that a lot in Death Valley on Saturday night. Probably not.
There'll be a lot of wolves, all right.
We will be you can catch all of our coverage on bet.nola.com. You can sign up for our newsletter by going to nola.com/Bayou Bets. And until then, we will see you next time. For Jim and the Guru, I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching, everybody.